There are unfortunately many forms of prejudice in the world today, as seen when people discriminate against race, disability, social classes, and much more. In this video lesson, we're going to have a look at two pervasive forms of prejudice: ageism and sexism. This is Malala Yousafzai, and at the age of 15, she was shot in an assassination attempt, all because she was fighting for the right for girls to go to school in her town in Pakistan. If you don't already know about her story, the best thing you can do after this video is to read up on it. The history behind denying education to women is old and complex, and Malala's advocacy demonstrates the ongoing lack of equality when it comes to education, often due to gender roles that are no longer relevant in today's society. Malala thankfully survived the attack on her by the Taliban and would later receive the Nobel Peace Prize for her work in women's rights. Sexism is one of the most recognized forms of prejudice in the world and exists across all cultures, age groups, societal classes, and countries. Both sexes, of course, can experience sexism, but women typically report experiencing sexual prejudice more than men. It's worth mentioning that the issue isn't about ignoring the differences that do exist between men and women. It's assuming that because of these differences, an individual should and will behave in a certain manner. It's about stereotypes and categorization that plays out in negative ways for each sex. In short, sexism limits what males and females believe they can or should do. Here are some examples of the effects of sexism. When it comes to employment, studies have shown that women are underrepresented in most areas of work and are also often paid less than men in the same role. On the contrary, men are often seen as less capable when it comes to domestic duties such as caring for children. And when it comes to expressing feelings, well, men are often expected to control their emotions and appear strong, while women are expected to display their emotions and be softer, whatever that means. Fortunately, sexist attitudes are increasingly being addressed around the world to correct unfair views held by portions of society. Over the last century, countless movements have resulted in significant change with regards to women having the right to vote, hold public office, enter into legal contracts, be free from sexual violence, and much more. Most agree, however, that there is still so much to be done. Ageism is prejudice on the basis of age. Similar to sexism, this can apply to any age. For example, the youth are often stereotyped as, all being really reckless. However, the elderly are more commonly the subject of discrimination. This is also not an issue that will go away because all the data points to us living in an increasingly aging society. The World Health Organization estimates that by 2050, more than 20% of the world's population will be over 60 years in age. While that's good news in many ways, it shows the importance of addressing prejudice against the elderly. Unlike many other prejudices, ageism is still widely accepted and unquestioned in today's society, and little is done to counter ageist beliefs. So, what are some of those beliefs? Well, what do you think of when you picture old people? A sweet lady baking biscuits for her grandchildren, that grandfather who can't seem to get his tablet into front-facing camera mode for a simple video call. Common stereotypes about the elderly include them having poor memories, lacking skills in computers and modern technology, being a burden on society, and always being in poor health. Remember that these attitudes can be implicit, so a person may not even be conscious that they hold these beliefs. And what do you think these prejudices will result in? Well, elderly people commonly report on not being selected for employment when up against younger people with the same skill set, being stereotyped by the public and media as being plain old and crazy, and even getting blamed for the problems of future generations. In 2004, Australia passed the Age Discrimination Act, which now makes it unlawful to discriminate in any way on the ground of age. The goal, amongst other things, was to remove barriers that prevent older people from participating in society and the workforce, and to change negative stereotypes. In my opinion, again, so much change still needs to happen before society sees this as a problem that needs remedying. Until you become the subject of discrimination yourself, it can be hard to recognize the harmful effects that prejudice has. We humans may not be able to easily stop thinking in terms of social categories, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do all we can to fight against prejudice and discrimination in any shape or form.